Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're doing a deep dive into some really quite charming source material. It's called Underwater Field Day Adventures.
That's right. And it might sound, a bit simple at first glance.
It does, but our mission here is to explore what these kinds of stories can actually tell us about, well, some pretty important ideas. Teamwork, physical activity, maybe even what winning really means.
Exactly. So we're heading, metaphorically speaking, to Bubbly Reef School. They're having their annual underwater field day.
Okay.
And the source introduces us to Coach Coral, gets the energy going, and we meet the teams.
Right, there's Team Octo.
hmm And the Bubble Blasters sounds like a noisy bunch.
Huh, yeah, and then Team Zoom Zoom, that's where we find Finn the Shark and Lulu the Lobster.
Our main characters, really.
Yeah.
And the source sets them up as, well, quite the pair. It creates this really fun, competitive vibe.
And the story itself, it gives us these like really vivid little moments. Let's take the sea sponge relay.
Okay.
Simple rule, right? Pass the sponge, but don't squeeze it.
Crucial detail.
And the source points out Finn, trying to be a bit flashy, does this twirl.
Ah, yes, the twirl. And predictably, spill it there.
Big splash.
Yeah. But then Lulu, she grabs it with her claw, skids a bit, but shouts out that great line, "We may be soggy, but we're speedy."
I love that. It
Yeah.
immediately shows something, doesn't it? Like trying, messing up slightly, but keeping going.
Totally. It's setting up those themes. The source keeps coming back to effort, adaptation, maybe not taking it too seriously.
Okay, so then there's the Starfish synchronized swimming.
Right. And here the source is really explicit. The goal is working together, finding a rhythm.
And we get these funny comparisons like the puffer fish just spinning around.
Dizzy donuts, I think the source called them.
Yeah. And Team Octo, well, they just end up in a knot.
The classic octopus problem,
That's
maybe.
fine.
But then you contrast that with Finn and Lulu.
Right. They manage these perfect circles.
And they spell out F-U-N.
Which is pretty neat. And Coach Coral praises them, but specifically for the teamwork, right?
Exactly. Amazing teamwork. That's the quote. So the source clearly making a point there. Success, in this event anyway, hinges on collaboration.
Not just one star player.
Precisely.
Okay, moving on. The seaweed tug of tentacle sounds interesting.
The source describes it as slimy, stretchy, and smelled like old broccoli.
Appetizing.
Definitely memorable.
Mm-hmm.
But the climax isn't really about who wins. It builds up, and then nappy.
The seaweed breaks.
Yeah, it flies off like a green spaghetti rocket. That's the image the source uses.
Oh.
But the key thing, the source notes, is what happens next. Everyone just bursts out laughing.
Oh, okay.
They all float up, giggling. The competition just kind of dissolves.
Right. And this is where we can really see the lessons the source is trying to embed, isn't it? It's not subtle.
Not at all. It explicitly says, physical activity is fun. It's good for you, good for teamwork. We see that in all the events.
And it makes the point that sports, these games, they teach cooperation, communication too, problem solving.
Think about the relay.
Yeah.
Or the synchronized swimming. They had to figure it out together.
Yeah, they couldn't just power through individually. And I think my favorite piece is Coach Coral at the end.
Ah, the medal ceremony.
Yeah, every team gets a medal. And she says, today wasn't about winning.
It was about moving your bodies, using your brains, and having a blast with your buddies.
That sums it up, really. The source clearly values working together over just, getting the highest score.
Absolutely. And remember that seaweed moment. Everyone laughing?
Mm-hmm.
That directly illustrates another point the source makes. That sometimes a good laugh, a silly moment, that makes the learning, the exercise feel exciting.
And Lulu's line about getting seaweed in her eyes and Finn just saying, totally worth it.
Perfect ending for that bit. The joy was in the shared chaos, almost.
So, okay, let's bring it back to you, the listener. Why dig into this seemingly simple story about an underwater field day?
Well, these ideas, teamwork, valuing the effort, finding fun in the process, they seem basic, right? Obvious, almost.
Yeah, they do.
But think about it. How often in our own lives, our work, our big projects, do we actually prioritize those things over just the final outcome, the win?
That's a really good point. We get so focused on the deadline, the promotion, whatever the goal is,
that maybe we lose sight of the collaboration, the actual doing of it, the shared effort. That's what this deep dive kind of highlights, I think.
The source uses this simple setting to remind us of fundamentals we sometimes forget.
Exactly. The real win at Bubbly Reef wasn't the points. It was the experience, the laughter, tackling stuff together.
Which leads us to a final thought for you to mull over.
Right. If the goal isn't always just about that singular win, but more about the teamwork, the journey, the effort itself.
How might you approach something you're facing right now differently if that was your main focus?
It's worth considering. That simple wisdom from Bubbly Reef School. It might just offer a new perspective on your next big challenge, your next big splash.